One license. Download, create, report. Once you're a subscriber, you'll have access to thousands of downloadable music image files from our catalog of member publishers, and our outstanding database will help you make sure the song or text you're looking for is covered. Creating worship aids, bulletins, and projections has never been easier. Search for your song and download high-resolution music image files, all in one place. By taking advantage of the most up-to-date technology, our website makes it easy to report the titles you use. This ensures authors, composers, and publishers receive fair compensation. Music directors, pastors, and their teams can report song usage 12 weeks in the past and 6 weeks into the future. And our convenient list feature allows you to store frequently used titles for future access, or to download your entire list of songs at the click of a button. One License offers annual, event, and single-use reprint licenses. Annual licenses are the economical choice for those who reprint or project music on a regular basis. Event licenses are great for retreats, conferences, and conventions that are up to 1 week in length. And single-use licenses are perfect for a wedding, funeral, or other one-time event. In addition to congregational reprint licenses, One License offers a podcast streaming license for churches to stay connected to their many members, and a practice track license for music directors to share recordings with choir members and instrumentalists to help them learn their music. The One License customer service team is here to help. Our intelligent ticketing system and phone support ensure that your questions are promptly addressed. Email us at info@onelicense.net or call us at 1-800-663-1501. We believe in the power of music to connect and inspire communities. One License allows congregations to make the most of our member publishers' music, providing access to the finest music for the worshiping assembly. Whether you're using our service on an annual or a one-time basis, we're proud to offer our support. One License, inspiring congregational song.
Hello, license holders. Welcome to our annual new user webinar. I'm Dr. Katie M. Deaver, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Associate General Manager here at One License. I am so thrilled that you are joining us today. This annual webinar is always held in the first quarter of the year and is designed to allow us to share educational resources and to help you more easily utilize our platform. Being a global company, many of our users aren't able to call us on the phone regularly. So our hope through these webinars and the other video tutorials that we provide, we hope that those allow you to find the answers to your question any time of the day or night in any time zone. Our goal today is to answer as many of your questions as possible, as well as to share some tips and tricks for making the most of your licensing permissions with us here at One License. These webinars do contain a lot of information, so I would encourage you to take some notes so you can revisit those details in the coming days. And of course, as always, please follow up with our team if you have any questions or concerns. Now I'd like to introduce our bilingual ministry specialist, David. David, will you share with everyone how they can access the webinar after the live recording is over?
Absolutely. Our blog, news.onelicense.net, is an excellent resource for all the latest news from One License. We'll be sharing this webinar on our blog in a few days, so you can revisit this information or share it with a team member who is not able to make it today. We'll also be including it in our February newsletter, which will be sent out on Tuesday, February 28th.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. I know having access to that webinar after the fact will be really helpful for everyone, especially those who aren't able to join us because of those time zone differences or other commitments. We had over 600 individual license holders register to attend the webinar live with us today, which is truly fantastic. So whether you're here with us live right now or watching the recording later on, thank you for all that you do for your ministries in each of your individual contexts. It truly is our honor to be able to partner with you. And now I'd like to also introduce our copyright education and outreach specialist, Siobhan. who will share a few housekeeping notes for our conversation and webinar time together today.
Hi, all. We are glad that you're here, and we hope that the information that we're sharing in this webinar will help you get the most out of your One License permissions. A few housekeeping notes as we begin. This webinar will be no longer than 1 hour in length. All you need to participate is either speakers or headphones so that you can hear us. There's no need to have a microphone or a video camera. You are just an audience member today. Feel free to grab a writing utensil if that would be helpful to you, or maybe open up a Google Doc so that you can take notes throughout the webinar today if you like. Our time together is divided into 4 parts. First, we will share some One License background and offer some best practices on copyright. Then we will offer an external overview of our website, as well as an internal review of your license holder account. Thirdly, we'll share some tips and tricks for searching our system, and we'll highlight some helpful resources from our blog. And then we'll wrap up with a live Q&A session at the end. So I'm going to turn things back over to David now, and he's going to talk a little bit more about our Q&A process.
Thanks, Siobhan. If you're here with us live, you can click on the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen and then type your question directly into that box. We'll be monitoring that throughout our time together, and we'll do our very best to answer each of those questions live. Over the last few days, we've also received questions from some of you through our online ticketing system, so please know that we'll be including many of those questions as well. If you're watching the recording or have a question that's specific to your organization, our online ticketing system is going to be the best and fastest way for you to get in touch with the One License team. You can email us at info@onelicense.net or log into your account and submit your question through the contact link in the upper right-hand corner. One feature of our ticketing system is that if you're logged into your account and you send us a message through the contact link, all of your account information, such as license number and the organization name, will automatically be sent to us along with your request. It's really helpful for the One License team and allows us to find your account much more quickly. Feel free to write webinar in the subject line of your message and know that we'll respond by email, typically within 2 to 3 business days. Back to you, Katie.
Thanks so much, David. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing our PowerPoint slides. All right, so to get us started today, I'm going to just share a little bit of information about One License, including our vision for licensing. So our focus and our hope is to be centered on an educational and proactive approach to copyright. We want to be sure that you feel confident that you understand copyright basics and know what you need to do in order to do your best to follow copyright law. I think copyright can be something that's really scary for a lot of folks. And so our hope is to make this a little more manageable and a little bit easier for you to navigate. Our song database has nearly 210,000 titles at this point, and we partner with over 300 member publishers to help ensure that you have access to the music that you prefer to utilize in your worship services. As I mentioned, we are a global company and we do serve all organizations anywhere the church gathers, but we specialize in those mainline Protestant and Roman Catholic organizations. Since you're joining us today for our new user webinar, your organization likely already holds some sort of a license with us, but we do realize that licensing needs can change depending on how the worship life of your organization changes. So we recommend that you reassess those needs each year when your license comes up for renewal to ensure that you have the correct licensing for the way that you are currently worshiping or anticipate worshiping in the coming year. A really wonderful resource for you to take a look at is this infographic. So very similar to a lot of those sort of follow the dot charts that you see on social media, right? You start out with the, do you meet in person or stream online? And then based on your answer to that question, you can also see, are you reprinting the text or musical notation? And then you follow this down based on your answers, and you'll be able to see the type of license that we would recommend to fit your organization's needs. Certainly, all churches are unique and all organizations do things a little bit differently. So you're always welcome to reach out to our team. Let us know what your worship looks like, and we're happy to talk with you and give some recommendations and make sure you have the licensing that you need. As I mentioned briefly, we do partner with over 300 member publishers. Here you'll see a few of our premier member publishers. These are some of our larger publishing houses and are likely names that you're quite familiar with. Later on in our time together, we'll look at the website a bit more closely, and I'll show you how you can search to make sure that all of your favorite publishers are a part of our service. We'll also talk about what to do if a copyright holder is not a member publisher with us, or if the type of usage you have in mind isn't showing as approved in our system. If you are a new user on our service, you may still be wondering, what does One License really do? So One License is primarily a licensing service and only secondarily a downloading service. Based on your license type with us, you can report your music usage, and if you have a reprint license, you can also download files for congregational reprints. Do keep in mind that our member publishers retain full control of their catalogs and the data that they enter into our system. So not every congregational piece is going to have a download, and not every download will have a file type of every file type that you can think of. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit more when we look at the website itself. Let's talk a little bit about copyright. So copyright is a form of intellectual property law. It's designed to protect any type of artistic medium. So songs, poetry, drama, literature, even computer software can all be copyrighted. Whatever the medium is, it has to be in a fixed form. You can't put a copyright on an idea. So anytime that you're utilizing a copyrighted work in a new way, so for example, reprinting it in a worship aid or putting it up on a projection screen or including it in an online format, the composer, the author, any other owners of that creative work deserve to be compensated for that use. So how exactly does our service help to make all of that happen? That's where your reports come in. And this is why we ask for 100% compliance with that reporting responsibility. We utilize your reported music usage to calculate and disperse royalties to our member publishers, who then pay them out to the individual artists and composers and authors and arrangers. For our whole team here at One License, being able to accurately pay out those royalties truly is a justice issue. We want to be sure that we're appropriately supporting the creative work of these composers and authors and other artists who inspire our music choices. And we want to be sure that those artists and creative thinkers are able to continue composing and contributing that creative work so that we can all continue to utilize it within our communities. We are going to talk a lot more about reporting later on in our time together, but while I have slides up, I do want to show you this helpful graphic for displaying your permissions and licensing information. So when we talk about displaying permissions, this is what we're referring to. This information is what you're going to put in a worship aid or on a projection screen if you're reprinting copyrighted music in those places or in those ways. This is also the information that you want to include in your online services. So as you can see on the slide, you want to list that copyright information. So that's your title, composer, copyright year, publisher, any of those copyright details. And then also your licensing information. And that's the part that shows your type of usage. So if you're reprinting or podcast streaming, as well as your individual license number. When we're over in your account, I'll show you some easy ways to find that license number, but make sure that you're replacing our zeros for our example with your individual license number. Being able to list this information within your online services, as well as in the video description for those online services, will significantly help you to cut down on any claims or strikes or things you're seeing in those online services. This is the information that those bots are looking for. Additionally, we even encourage you to share all of this information for public domain titles, again, to make sure that we're giving credit where credit is due, and helping to make sure that we're not getting all of those claims and strikes on those online videos. In just a moment, we'll go ahead and walk through our internal and external website. But before we do that, Siobhan, what kind of questions are we seeing at this point?
There's a couple of questions about hymnals. What if my hymnal isn't in the dropdown? Can I get my hymnal added to the dropdown? My hymnal isn't listed on the entry when I locate the song.
Excellent. Great questions. Thanks, Siobhan. So again, we'll talk about this a little more when we get into the internal account site. But the number one thing to remember is that copyright is song or title specific, not resource specific. So just because your hymnal isn't listed on the site doesn't necessarily mean that the individual copyrighted pieces that are in that hymnal aren't covered for your use. For what it's worth, we do allow all of our member publishers retain full control of their titles and the data that they put into our system. So if there is a hymnal that you'd like to see added, reaching out to the publisher of that hymnal can often help them to be encouraged and know that customers are using that. One example of that is the hymnal 1982. That's a fairly new resource in probably the last year and a half. And Church Publishing shared that that was added because license holders asked. So it certainly is worth your time to reach out to those denominational publishers, especially, and encourage them to add those hymnals so you can search that way. But even when your hymnal isn't there, or even when you find the correct title entry and your hymnal isn't listed with those downloads, the piece is likely still covered. We just have to show you an easier way to find it. Thanks so much for that question, Siobhan. That's helpful. I'm going to go ahead and start walking you through a little bit of the external website. So many of our users, you're already probably a little bit comfortable or used to this main login screen. You'll see I'm already logged in, but a lot of these options are similar even if you weren't logged in. So this website, this web page gives you a really nice look at what it is we do here at One License. So our focus, right, is to help you download, create, and then report your usage. We aren't exactly a worship aid creation service like some of the maybe planning or worship building type services you would see from your denomination, but we do give you all of the tools to make creating worship aids as easy as possible. You'll find a variety of available file formats. Again, our member publishers have complete control of how and what data they enter into our system. So you'll see a variety of file formats depending on what they have available and what they think will be useful to you as license holders. If the title is approved for reprint use, and we'll show you some easy ways to spot that and make sure you know it's approved, you are welcome to create your own reprint file for congregational use. So that might look like retyping the text of a hymn so that you can put it on a projection screen or in a worship aid, or even engraving the congregational melody line or that text in a program like Finale or Sibelius so that you have access to those congregational reprints. You're also always welcome to reach out to the member publisher and request those files. In some cases, they'll be able to share that with you and you'll have what you need to make that worship aid even more quickly than creating your own. A little further down, you'll see again our select member publishers. So some of the publishers you can expect to see on the site, as well as our news and announcement section. This is going to take you directly over to our blog, which David and Siobhan will share a little bit more about later on in our time together. We do also email out a monthly newsletter to all of our users, and it will spotlight some of our most popular blogs, or if we tend to get similar questions in our ticketing system or in phone calls, we'll often write a blog post or re-release an older blog post to help make that information as easy for you to find as possible. Can see some testimonials, of course, and then down in the footer, there's also some really helpful resources and links for you. Of course, our frequently asked questions page, that can be incredibly helpful. Also some brochures to download. Maybe you're interested in becoming a One License license holder. You know that you need some sort of licensing, but you're not sure where to start, or you have a music and worship committee that needs a little assistance to understand what copyright licensing looks like. Feel free to download those helpful brochures. There's some educational and talking points in there to sort of help you get started with that process. Additionally, you're always welcome to email us at info@onelicense.net. We use a Zendesk ticketing system, and it's really, really helpful because you'll always be able to see exactly what the status of your ticket is. So you can see when there's an agent who has opened it and is working on it. You can see if they've marked it as pending because they're going to check in with our finance team or something like that. Or you can see when it's been solved and see those messages from our team. As David mentioned, it's really wonderful when you contact us when you're already logged into the site, because we get a lot of extra and helpful information like your license number, things that will allow us to find your account and answer your question even more quickly. So if you were logged in like I am now, and you click this contact option, you're going to see that it will fill in your email address and your test organization for you. Then you can give us a regular subject line and message, and then that's sent directly to our team. So certainly a good way to get in touch with us and share a little information. You'll also find some helpful tabs on this site, such as how it works. This will give you an overview of each of our license types, as well as some other helpful links, such as options and prices, or frequently asked questions. The member publisher page is also extremely helpful. So as we've said, we do have over 300 member publishers. So you're certainly welcome to scroll through that alphabetized list, but you also can type in the publisher that you're curious if they are a partner with us. You'll be able to see sort of the parent member publisher company, as well as any included catalogs. So certainly for some of our large publishers like OCP, GIA, Jubilate, you're going to see a lot of their individual catalogs or imprints from those publishing companies also listed there. Our member publishers do participate in a variety of ways. Certainly license type is one of the ways that they would participate. On this same page, if you see the podcast streaming or practice track options listed, then that will tell you that that particular member publisher does participate in those license types. Keep in mind that just because a member publisher participates in podcast streaming does not necessarily mean that every single title in their entire catalog will be approved for that type of usage. So it isn't sort of a blanket statement. But if you're looking for a title from Novum, they do participate in podcast streaming. So you know that there's a good chance that the title you're looking for is going to be approved for that type of usage. The last thing on our sort of external page is just our options and prices. This page is going to be linked to the IP address for the computer or phone or tablet that you're using. So it should immediately take you to your currency and your regional area. And then you'll be able to see all of the different license type options, see what the different pricing points are for different sizes of organization, as well as what it would cost to do both a reprint and to bundle with those online permissions. Do keep in mind, all of the One License licenses are based on your average weekly attendance. And this is average weekly attendance for all services that your organization holds in a typical week. So even if it isn't a service where you're using copyrighted music, even if this one is in person and online, all of those pieces, we really are looking at the size of your organization. As we mentioned earlier, we're very, very committed to a justice-based and an equitable pricing model. And so part of how we do that is to determine the general size of your organization so that we can be sure you have the copyright coverage that you need. So those average weekly attendance numbers, all services in person, and those online views. There's some really helpful blog articles on our blog about determining those numbers and how to look at the sort of back end of your YouTube and Facebook accounts to try and get a good number for those. I believe David or Siobhan are going to drop a couple of helpful links for you in the chat so that you have access to those pieces. All right, Siobhan, do we have any other questions at this point?
We do. Sorry, I'm copying them here. And so if I can't find my song in the database, what do I do? Or if I can't see the copyright claim, or if the contributors don't match?
Great. All great questions. So the first thing, of course, if you aren't able to find a copyright claim, that can be really difficult, right? I would just always encourage you to reach out to our team and give us as much info as you do have. So as I mentioned before, right, copyright is song specific, not resource or collection specific. But, if those individual pieces don't have a copyright right on them, if you email us and let us know what book you're looking at, maybe the book itself has a copyright, hopefully we can try and help you track that down. Google is, of course, a really wonderful resource for all of us as we try to find those, as is Hymnary. So certainly reach out to our team and we can try and help you with that. The most important things that you're going to look for in our system, and we'll talk about this shortly, is that title and contributor match. So as you're probably aware, copyrights can be renewed. So copyright year sometimes changes. And of course, right, our denominational hymnals often, I happen to be Lutheran myself, so I think the new hymnal was from 2007. And so those sort of exist in a vacuum, and certainly the copyrights that have been included in them have been renewed. Maybe they've even changed hands. So your printed copy might say that Augsburg Fortress owned a particular copyright, but maybe several years ago it was purchased by another copyright holder. So now in our system, it's showing that GIA holds that copyright. So certainly feel free to lean on our system and know that our member publishers are able to much more easily update an online database than a previously printed hymnal. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well as we look at the interior of the website. All right. So once you've logged in and you're able to see your account, you have a lot of different options. So as we've mentioned a couple of times already, we are primarily a reporting service and only secondarily a downloading service. Keep in mind as well that our reprint license is only for your congregational titles. So any of your music for your instrumentalists, your organ accompaniments, your choirs, handbells, all of those things, those are going to be purchased directly from the member publisher, right? So these reprint files are for congregational use, not choir or other musicians who are participating in that service. Our most popular license option is the annual reprint and podcast streaming license bundle. Reprint, of course, is often needed by congregations because the purchase of a hymnal or a missalette resource really only gives you permission to use that purchased resource as is. So if you're going to do anything above and beyond singing in person with that purchased hymnal, you need licensing. So let's say you want to make a worship aid, or you want to put the text up on a projection screen. Maybe you're creating a leaflet for a funeral or a wedding. All of those things are going to require a reprint license for copyrighted music. Additionally, right, in the last several years, many of us began streaming or recording services to then post online. Any of that copyrighted music that can be heard in those online platforms also requires licensing. So reprint, right, is your congregational reprints, so those copies in that reprinted piece. But then in the online piece, it's all copyrighted music. So if you're using any copyrighted titles from our member publishers online, you're also going to need online licensing in order to be able to use those. And that's going to involve reporting and acknowledging your use of your choir anthems, your organ prelude postludes, handbell pieces, all of that copyrighted music that can be heard in those services. So in your My Account tab, you'll see a number of different options. Let's take a look at My Profile to start out with. So keep in mind that editing your personal password or email only affects your account. So if you have, say, a secondary user or a billing person or other folks on that account, if you're editing your account from this page to change your password or to change your email, that's only going to impact you. In a little while, David's going to talk a little bit about our Spanish website, and that will also be important for that. So we have different users using different language preferences on the site as well. If you're the primary user of your organization, you'll also be able to make changes like your organization title, your address, phone number, all of those things. Definitely take a moment and set your time zone preference. All of our system emails or our newsletters are set based on the preference you send, so that you set in here. So it'll come to you at a good time of day, depending on what time zone you have set in here. The licenses tab is going to show you what licenses you currently have in your account. So you'll be able to see right away, okay, annual license with podcasting. That means I have reprint permissions as well as those podcast streaming permissions. And then when you're looking at this, also, you're going to notice your license number. So these we know can be a little tricky to find. They're sort of in that line item on your invoice or at the end of the line here in these, but you look for that letter followed by a 6-digit number, and that's going to be the license number. Same thing for practice track. And those are the numbers that you're going to put on your reprint worship aids, put in your online videos, all of those places. This green option over here is also going to allow you to view an invoice. You can download a copy of the terms of your license or send yourself a welcome packet. That welcome packet has the invoice and the terms, as well as a helpful information doc. That doc is actually going to link you to a variety of resources on our blog, as well as offer a few helpful tips and tricks for doing your reporting in our system. User accounts. So I am logged in as the primary on this account, but you can certainly have secondary users as well. So your primary account holder is able to do all the reporting. They do receive the invoice each year, and they are able to make changes, adding or deleting other users, as well as have a little more editable capabilities in that organization tab. Keep in mind that our billing contacts do not have login privileges. So if you want to be able to log in because you're responsible for reporting, do not mark yourself as billing. Billing contacts are not able to log in, and they just receive that invoice by email once per year. So it can be a great solution for treasurers who just need that invoice and want to take care of it. But if you need to log in, you don't want to mark yourself as billing. Also, feel free to subscribe to our newsletter in here so that we can send you those helpful resources. There's no limit to the number of users you can have on an account. We have lots of folks who add choir members or worship committee volunteers or even youth who are in need of service hours as secondary users, because then they can help with that reporting. I know folks that I've worked with in youth choir or even older children's choir are probably always faster than I am at reporting. So it's a great way to involve folks that are so used to all of the technology and all of these pieces, and feel like it's a fun way for them to be able to help with that service and be involved in music at church. The setting tab is very, very helpful as well. Here you can actually select the different hymnal resources that your community uses. What this will do is basically help those worship resources and the titles in those resources float to the top of your search engine. So when you're searching our system, if you've selected particular hymnals or resources, those are going to be the first results that the system will bring for you. This is also where you can update your default number of services. It's entirely up to you. Some folks prefer to set this as 1 and change it on every individual title they report. Some folks just know that, hey, I have 3 services and I use the same music at all 3 of them. So this is a great way to set that. Your primary user is going to be the one who is able to set that for you, or you can reach out to our team and we can update that service number for you as well. The download tab is also helpful, especially if you're starting a new position with the church and you want to see the types of songs or hymns that they've used in the past. You can actually download all of your reports for past years, and those will show here, and you'll be able to download them again, which can be really helpful. Additionally, our notification center, this is a fairly new development still. I think it's about a year old at this point. So this is one way for us to notify you of things like you'll see our holiday hours or the launching of something exciting like our Spanish website. This is also where you're going to be able to keep track of your song submissions. So you'll see them appear as pending. And then as soon as the member publisher takes an action on those, then you'll see what the result is. So we'll likely talk about this again in a little bit, but in case it's helpful, when the member publisher receives these song submissions that you've sent in through your account, they're able to either reject that if it's perhaps not their title or they aren't going to allow certain usage permissions. They can pass it to a different member publisher if the copyright has perhaps changed hands. They can substitute it with a title already in the system, or they can accept it and add a brand new title to the system. So those are the types of messages you'll see. Most member publishers will also give you a sentence or two to try and explain why they've taken whichever action they've taken. If that ever isn't the case, or you're still not understanding what they're sharing with you, of course, reach out to our team and we either will be able to explain it or we'll be able to reach out to the member publisher and get you a little extra clarification for exactly what is happening there. So to jump into reporting, I would recommend you can do My Account. You can report usage or search music. For those with a practice track, you'll go to Report Tracks. When you open up that reporting page, you're going to see 20 total weeks. So again, we do ask for 100% compliance all the time. So if you use a copyrighted title in a way that requires licensing, we want you to report that use. So it isn't sort of a rolling window or something. You just always have 20 open weeks, and we encourage you to report. A lot of folks report every week, and it probably takes 10 to 15 minutes as you get used to the site. Others report monthly or every other week, something like that. Whatever system works best for you, that's super. So you'll see 13 weeks in the past and 7 in the future. So 20 total open weeks at any time. Once they disappear from this top part, they cannot be reopened, but any catch-up reporting that you might need to do, go ahead and put that in any of the weeks that are open. Keep in mind that there are times when you're going to need to report the text and the tune, especially of congregational titles, separately, right? I think many of us get used to using an individual text with a couple different tunes or vice versa. And so sometimes you're going to need to look at the copyright, both for the text and for the tune, and then report two different settings to find the correct one. So if you take one thing away from our time together today, I would love for it to be how I'm going to show you how to search right now. So by far, the easiest, fastest way to search our system is just going to be by title and composer last name or contributor last name. Maybe it's a text author, maybe it's a tune composer, right in the search bar. Yes, there are lots of, fun bells and whistles and fun limiters and other things that you can do on our site, and those can be incredibly helpful. But to start out, just putting that title and last name of the contributor in the search bar will be so, so helpful to you. Most of the time, this is going to give you the very first or maybe second result. That's going to be the one that you were looking for. For the most part, even if it isn't the first or second, it's going to be in the top 5 or 6, and you'll be able to find it really, really quickly. So as we look at this, go ahead and really pay attention to these permissions icons. So I know Davin's going to be dropping a blog post about these for you so you can take a look. If they're dark black like this, that means that the usage is approved. And you'll be able to sort of hover and see what each of our icons mean. So we've got reprint, podcast streaming, practice track non-commercial, and practice track commercial. If those were gray, then that usage is not allowed by the permissions of your license. So definitely pay attention to those. For what it's worth, you are able to search our site when you aren't logged in, and you'll still be able to see these permissions icons, but the system won't know what type of license you hold. And so it'll be a little trickier to know for sure if your license is covered or just these are just the usage permissions for the individual title. You'll also see here some of those downloadable files that we talked about, PDF, text files, all of the different options. Again, it's entirely up to the member publisher which files they share with us and which are available for different titles. You're always welcome to reach out to them individually if that is helpful, and they can often send you some assistance with that or a file that you need. The other thing that can be really helpful up here, we have a browse by mass setting or other liturgical setting. So under our mass settings, right, we've got our new and revised 2010, and as well as some past mass settings. The great thing about this option is that you're going to be able to click and see all of the pieces of that mass all in one place. So rather than having to, for example, look at a particular mass and have to search every single individual piece included in that mass, you're going to find it by mass setting and see every single one of those pieces. So you have it all in one place. No need to do individual title searching. You also, from this page, let's say that you were going to use a particular piece of a mass for 6 or 7 Sundays for a sermon series or something special like that. You can also add these to a list in your account by clicking that little plus list option. You can create a new list when you do that, or add it to a list that you already have. This can be really helpful. I know I've joined a staff where someone had put the whole community's favorites into a list. And boy, was it lovely to be able to log in and see this list with all of their favorites and know that A, they like to sing those, but also B, they know those, and I can put those in and know that they're going to be confident, and that will be wonderful. And then you can go ahead and save those lists down here. The other thing I want to bring your attention to when you find the piece that you want to report, you can go ahead and click that green report button. You'll be able to select the individual week that you want to report for, and then also be able to set the number of services or the number of usage. Again, right, my account was set for 3 services a week. So we've got 3 showing here, and then the 1 podcast. Whether you click submit and view or submit and continue search, either way is just fine. We had a license holder probably about a year ago now tell us that he thinks of the reporting interface a lot like a bulletin board, so that he can see what he's posted on the bulletin board, and so can the One License team. And as long as you can see it, you can rest assured that it has been saved and it'll be paid out in those royalties. So no worries there at all. Another thing to watch out for, just as you get used to our site and how the service works, each of our member publishers has their own numbering system for their catalog and their titles. So one of the really helpful things is that you can save these individual numbers. So some folks will use a spreadsheet or something like that, and you'll be able to click those and find the title you're looking for. In some cases, like this one, you're going to see a couple of different song entries that have that same number. Don't worry, that's okay. They just happen to be from 2 different member publishers. I think the most we've ever found is 3 or 4. So you'll still be able to narrow that down pretty quickly. All right, I want to make sure we have plenty of time for as many questions and as much conversation as we can get. So Siobhan, what kinds of questions are we seeing now?
So there's some questions about public domain. Do I need to report it? How come it's only approved for reprint?
Yeah, great question. So public domain music, as the term would suggest, that is available for public use. So if a title is public domain or it doesn't have a copyright claim on it and you've reached out to us, those do not need to be reported. In the US, that tends to be 70 years after the death of the creator. But even that you'll want to be a little bit careful of, because as we said, copyrights can be renewed or can change hands. And often, right, the popular songs that many of us use, those are significantly renewed. So no, you don't need to report public domain, but certainly be very intentional about double checking that it truly is public domain. Great question. Thanks, Siobhan. All right, I'm going to turn things over to David so that he can tell us about some of those special features we mentioned.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, everyone. For those of you who have already taken the time to click around our website, you may have noticed an option at the top of the page to switch your language preference to Spanish. Y hola a todos los hispanohablantes que están aquí, pues bienvenidos. This is a new feature that we've recently launched as an intentional way to further serve the global church by improving the accessibility for our Spanish-speaking worship communities that are interested in using our services. Please feel free to spread the word to the Spanish-speaking communities of your own organizations, because as we know, those communities are also a part of your organization's larger worshiping community and are also covered by your organization's license. We're so excited for all of you to have that opportunity to add these folks as additional users to your account so that they can enhance their services through our partnership here at One License as well. I'd also like to elaborate on our blog, which we've received a lot of questions about. At One License, we make it a point to frame our service to our license holders in education. Our blog is a really great place to learn about your license, about copyright, and so much more. It's a space where we've created helpful content based on the inquiries that we receive from the phone calls and emails of our license holders. We take the time to catalog our articles and tag them in ways that'll be helpful for our users. We also have a search function. So if you're looking for information regarding YouTube, for example, you can type that in and all relevant articles will come up. Another great term to search is reporting. We have multiple resources regarding the ins and outs of that topic as well. There's also a great series called the Spotlight series. And this is where we get to interview member publishers about their catalogs and different things that they're excited about. Our blog is a great way to expand your music plans and maybe try something new. Now I'll pass things over to Siobhan to share some additional information about our newsletter and our call and response events.
Right, yes. So we share the blog articles in our monthly newsletters together with other One License news. These are usually sent out on the last Tuesday of the month, and they feature our latest blog posts, news from our member publishers, Katie's quick tip, her monthly quick tip, always a good one. One of our monthly events that you may want to take advantage of is call and response. This is a 45-minute office hours with our staff that you can join and then ask questions or even just come and sit and listen to other people's questions. We found that it's a great place to gather with colleagues to discuss and learn. So our next call and response will be in March. And if you have more questions after today, feel free to join us then. Send us an email to info@onelicense.net, or once you're logged into your account, click on contact in the upper right-hand corner and send us an email and we'll get you all signed up.
You
All
did.
right,
I
so
was
back to
muted.
David.
Hello.
Yeah.
And now we'll transition to the remainder of our Q&A session. Siobhan, what kinds of questions are you receiving?
Oh, thank you. I'm kind of copying them here. Let me scroll down. What if the permissions I want to utilize are not showing as approved in the system? I think that's a question about the permissions icons, Katie.
Absolutely. Great question. Right, exactly. So you can trust those permission icons. And so if you see a usage type that you have in mind that is not showing as covered in the system, you're going to want to reach out to the copyright holder or member publisher directly. Sort of related to that question, so manual submissions, when you look in our system and you aren't able to find the title at all, so you've searched by title and last name of contributor, maybe you've reached out to our team and tried to see if we can help you find it. You've tried perhaps an alternate title, or if it is a originally Spanish hymn, you've had our assistants to search for it in Spanish, sort of all those options. You can fill out a manual submission and that will go directly to the copyright holder or member publisher that you select. But that is only for titles that you can't find at all. So if this title is not in the system, you've tried everything, then go ahead and do a manual submission. If it's just not showing the usage that you are hoping for, maybe you want to put it in your online service, but that icon is grayed out, then reach out to that member publisher directly. Thanks, Siobhan.
Mm-hmm.
What other questions do we have?
Why did the member publisher, this is about a manual submission. Why did the member publisher replace my submission for an arrangement with the original text or tune?
Great question. I'm not sure if this was on our list, but I'll ask David to drop a really helpful recording for call and response from back in November, where we had Alex from OCP join us and talk about this. So when an arranger decides that they're going to do an arrangement of a text or tune that is under copyright, that arranger works with the original text or tune copyright holder to determine, whatever their financial agreement is and what the use of that looks like. But those arrangements do not earn royalties through reports on our site. So when those manual submissions are sent in, it's that original text or tune copyright that's going to earn the royalty and be reported. So that is likely why the member publisher substituted it for that original. On the other hand, if you have something public domain like Silent Night, and there's an arrangement of that, since Silent Night's in the public domain, the arranger can copyright that arrangement, and now that arranger can earn royalties on that. So definitely take a look at that November, I believe it was, call and response, because Alex has some really great examples and some really great tips and tricks for trying to determine for sure if that original text and tune are under copyright and how that will work. Great question. What else?
Let's see. How about if I compare my hymnal page to the database and I'm sorry, I answered the question and it went away. So let me remember what the question was. Oh, all right. So I compare what's on my hymnal page to the database and I get a match for title, contributor, and copyright holder, but I don't see my hymnal in the database. Can I just report that one?
Absolutely. Yep. Assuming I just understood your question correctly. Yes.
I know, sorry.
Even no, you're good. No worries. Even if your resource is not in the ones you see listed there, as long as your copyright information for that individual title is matching, then that is just fine. Go ahead and report that one. If you're ever in doubt, just reach out to our team and we can check on that or guide you to the right place for that. Great questions. What else? I know there's a lot of chats and Q&As, so I know you guys are trying to sort through.
Some questions about where to find the welcome packet and how to send it to myself.
Great question. So in your, let me screen share again quick. In your account, if you are the primary, you're going to be able to send it to other folks in this my account, my profile, and under users. So you should be able to see, you'll have your reach out to your primary or to us, and then they can double check that everything is good here. If you want to send one to yourself, then you're going to go under licenses and this green arrow. And you'll be able to send that to yourself. We can also send those to you by request, not an issue at all. What other questions are we seeing, Siobhan or David? If you, I know David's busily answering questions in our chat too, so I know there are a few that maybe have been answered in the meantime too.
How about this one? So if our hymnal isn't listed, we should submit a song we want to report to the publisher and wait for a response from them.
So the only time that you would do a manual submission is if that title and contributor aren't in our system at all. So if you have, say, a title that you're looking for and you see it when you pull up that search and it just, your hymnal doesn't happen to be in that dropdown, that's fine. You're going to focus on the copyright of the individual title itself, right? So really our colleagues in Australia, New Zealand, your royalties do work a little bit different. So it's more important for you to be able to select the correct resource. But for our United States and Canadian folks, even if your resource isn't there, it doesn't matter. Just focus on that title and contributor matching so that you know that's the correct title. Doesn't matter if your hymnal or your resource isn't there. No need to do a manual submission for those.
Can you show people again where to find the blog on our website?
You bet. So couple of options. Obviously, you can, of course, just go ahead and do news.onelicense.net and it will take you right there. Otherwise, from this homepage, if you scroll down a little bit over halfway, you're going to see this news and announcements section and you'll be able to click right through. All right, so you'll see all of those pieces. Additionally, right, I think David's probably got this in the chat for you, but we've got news.onelicense.net.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you all so much for asking such excellent questions. Again, if we were not able to get to your question today, please feel free to shoot us an email at info@onelicense.net or log into your account and submit your question through the contact link in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll receive a reply from our team, including me and Siobhan and Katie, in 24 to 72 hours. We're always on there, so you can count on us.
Thanks so much, David. Well, thank you to both Siobhan and David. I sincerely appreciate all of your hard work and all of the care that you offer to support our license holders and our member publishers. And thank you to all of you, our license holders, who've been able to join us today or who are watching the recording after the fact. We truly appreciate your time and attention to this important information and truly hope that it helps you to more easily utilize our service as you continue to serve your ministries in your context. We did mention at the beginning of this webinar that the recording will be available on the blog in the next several days. You'll also see a link there to a PDF fast facts sheet that has a lot of quick tips and tricks, some quick blog links and articles that answer a lot of the questions that we hear frequently. So hopefully that'll help get you started a bit. That sheet will be both in the blog post, and that is the same link that was in the chat toward the beginning of our time together. So other than that, the three of us and the rest of the One License team wish you and your ministries all the best in the weeks and seasons to come. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Goodbye, everyone.